Have you ever watched a movie so handcrafted, so impossibly detailed, that you could feel the fingerprints of the artist on every frame? That's the magic of stop motion, where patience meets pure imagination. Every blink, every shadow, every ripple of movement, built one frame at a time. It's brutal, beautiful, and absolutely timeless. Today, we're diving into 15 stop-motion films that didn't just entertain us, they reshaped animation itself in ways that computers still can't touch. The Lost World, 1925. Before dinosaurs roared in surround sound, they stomped to life through clay and steel wire. The Lost World wasn't just an adventure movie, it was a revelation. Willis O'Brien, the quiet genius behind the stop-motion effects, built prehistoric creatures from scratch using armatures and latex skins, then moved them one fraction of an inch at a time. The result? Dinosaurs that breathed and fought with a sense of weight no one had ever seen before. Audiences in the Roaring Twenties couldn't believe their eyes. Here were creatures that looked alive, not drawings, not puppets, but something entirely new. Film critics described the experience as magic with bones. The scenes of brontosauruses tearing through jungles and pterodactyls soaring above explorers weren't just spectacle. They were proof that stop motion could tell real stories. This was the foundation of everything that followed King Kong, Jurassic Park, even modern CGI owes a debt to this landmark. O'Brien's dinosaurs weren't just models, they were pioneers. They showed filmmakers that imagination, when paired with grit and craft, could turn impossible dreams into moving reality. Without The Lost World, cinema's creatures might never have learned to walk. King Kong, 1933. When the world first met King Kong, audiences screamed, gasped, and by the time it ended, cried. This wasn't just another monster movie, it was the first time stop-motion carried a full emotional arc. Once again, Willis O'Brien took the reins, but this time his creation had a heart. Kong wasn't just a beast, he was tragic, heroic, and heartbreakingly alive. Frame by frame, O'Brien transformed fur and metal into emotion. The way Kong examines Fay Wray's character, the tenderness in his eyes, the confusion when the city turns against him, that's not camera trickery. That's animation empathy. Every finger twitch, every roar, every fall from the Empire State Building was sculpted in miniature, yet felt monumental. Behind the scenes, this film was chaos stop motion on a scale no one had attempted. Each movement required hours of work. Each mistake meant restarting entire sequences. But when Kong fought dinosaurs, tore through the jungle, and finally reached for the sky, he did something no special effect had done before. He made people feel. From this film forward, stop motion wasn't just a tool. It was an art form capable of tragedy and grandeur. O'Brien proved that even the mightiest monster could break your heart one frame at a time. Jason and the Argonauts, 1963. By the early 60s, one man stood atop the mountain of stop-motion mastery, Ray Harryhausen, and Jason and the Argonauts was his crown jewel. The famous skeleton battle wasn't just cool, it was revolutionary. 7 skeleton warriors fighting live actors, each frame meticulously planned to keep shadows, weight, and timing believable. That sequence alone took 4 months to film for just 3 minutes of screen time. Imagine the patience each sword swing mapped, every bone clicking into motion. But it wasn't just technical excellence. Harryhausen gave his creations soul. These weren't lifeless skeletons, they moved with purpose, fury, and grace. The film blended myth and magic with physical artistry. Talos, the towering bronze giant, moved with such mechanical precision that audiences could hear his joints creak. The Hydra, the Harpies, the gods all pulsed with character. For young animators, this was the textbook on how to breathe life into the lifeless. Jason and the Argonauts wasn't just entertainment, it was education. Every stop-motion artist since has studied it like gospel. It showed that animation could dance between fantasy and realism, crafting a world that feels both impossible and tangible. To this day, few scenes in cinema match its blend of craftsmanship and awe. When people talk about movie magic, this is what they mean. James and the Giant Peach, 1996. What happens when you take a Roald Dahl classic and hand it to the stop-motion dream team that redefined Halloween? You get James and the Giant Peach, a film that proved stop-motion could seamlessly blend fantasy, live action, and pure imagination. Directed by Henry Selick and produced by Tim Burton, this adaptation took Dahl's surreal world and gave it texture you could almost touch. The story follows young James, escaping his grim reality by sailing across the ocean in a giant peach alongside a talking spider, centipede, and grasshopper. But what makes this film extraordinary is how it physically feels. The puppets have imperfections, the sets look lived in, and the peach itself gleams with such convincing detail that it's practically edible. Behind the scenes, animators worked for years, shooting frame by frame while blending live-action sequences to create a dreamlike transition between two worlds. The team used new lighting techniques that gave every surface a soft, painterly glow, creating an illusion that felt both storybook and cinematic. It wasn't a box office giant, but its artistry inspired an entire generation of filmmakers. Selick's style gothic whimsy mixed with emotional truth became a signature that would influence everything from Coraline to Paranorman. James and the Giant Peach remains a testament to how handcrafted art can turn a children's fantasy into something both visually stunning and emotionally timeless. It's not just a movie about escaping to another world, it's proof that stop motion is another world. Chicken Run, 2000. This wasn't just a farmyard fable, it was The Great Escape, done with feathers and clay. Aardman Animations, the British powerhouse behind Wallace and Gromit, went all in with Chicken Run. It became the highest-grossing stop-motion film ever made and single-handedly proved that this medium could compete with the slick digital giants of its era. The setup was genius, a group of chickens plotting to break free from a farm that feels more like a prison camp, led by the fierce and witty Ginger. Every character is distinct, expressive, and hilarious. What made this work wasn't just the humor, it was the sheer physicality. Feathers ruffle, eyes dart, and clay mouths sync perfectly with rapid-fire dialogue. Production was a marathon. Thousands of interchangeable beaks, hands, and heads were sculpted for micro-expressions. A single second of screen time could take an entire day to shoot. Yet somehow it all feels effortless. The film's charm lies in its balance of old-school craft and modern energy, the kind of movie where every fingerprint and smudge becomes part of its charm. More than 2 decades later, Chicken Run still looks and moves beautifully. It's a film that doesn't just entertain, it celebrates persistence both on-screen and behind the camera. It told the world that stop motion wasn't obsolete. It was alive, kicking, and ready to fly. Corpse Bride, 2005. If The Nightmare Before Christmas was the revolution, Corpse Bride was the evolution. Tim Burton's hauntingly beautiful stop-motion love story took the gothic tone he made famous and polished it with new technology. For the first time, animators used digital still cameras instead of film, giving them perfect control over lighting, color, and detail. The result? Every frame looked like a moving painting. The film follows Victor and his accidental bride from beyond the grave, a world bursting with heart, humor, and Burton's signature melancholy. But what really set Corpse Bride apart was its fluidity. The animators developed ball and socket joint puppets so sophisticated that they could express human-like subtleties, a raised eyebrow, a trembling lip, a shy glance. Burton's production design was equally striking. The living world is painted in cold, pale blues. The world of the dead glows in vibrant oranges and purples. It's a stunning inversion. Life looks lifeless, while death bursts with color and rhythm. the blend of romantic tragedy and musical whimsy created something that felt both modern and timeless. Though lighter in tone than some of Burton's darker tales, Corpse Bride elevated stop-motion's artistry. It wasn't just about technical mastery, it was about emotional precision. It showed how the smallest puppet movement could break a viewer's heart, proving that technology, when used right, can amplify craftsmanship instead of replacing it. Coraline, 2009. Creepy, beautiful, unforgettable. Henry Selick's Coraline wasn't just a stop-motion movie, it was a warning to anyone who thought the medium was a children's game. Adapted from Neil Gaiman's dark fantasy novel, it fused the tactile world of puppets with cutting-edge technology, creating something eerie, elegant, and utterly groundbreaking. The film tells the story of Coraline Jones, who discovers a secret door leading to a seemingly perfect version of her life until it turns sinister. Selick and the team at Laika built over 150 sets and used pioneering 3D printing techniques to create Coraline's facial expressions, giving her over 200,000 possible looks. Each one had to be painted, swapped, and photographed by hand. What made it special wasn't just the innovation, it was the atmosphere. The real world feels gray and cramped, while the other world glows with color and temptation. The uncanny smoothness of the animation makes everything feel too perfect, enhancing the unease. Laika's crew didn't just animate a story, they engineered an emotion. Coraline set a new standard for stop motion in the 21st century. It proved that this craft could be thrilling, scary, and artistically rich, not just nostalgic. It launched Laika into the big leagues, establishing them as the modern keepers of this ancient art. And it reminded audiences that even handmade worlds can deliver big-screen magic. Paranorman, 2012. Laika followed Coraline with something wild, a supernatural comedy that managed to be heartfelt, hilarious, and technically jaw-dropping all at once. Paranorman follows a boy who can see and speak to ghosts, using his strange gift to save his town from an old curse. But this wasn't just another animated adventure, it was a full-blown technical showcase for modern stop-motion. For the first time, Laika used color 3D printing for characters' faces, allowing expressions with more nuance than ever before. The puppets could now blush, smirk, or grimace with realistic transitions, a massive leap forward from the mechanical swaps of old. The team combined practical lighting with digital compositing to blend atmospheric effects like mist, lightning, and fire seamlessly with miniature sets. But technology alone doesn't make a masterpiece. Paranorman succeeded because it had soul. Its message about accepting what makes you different resonated across generations. The humor was sharp, the horror playfully spooky, and the animation so smooth that you could forget it wasn't CGI. Critics called it a miracle of movement, and they weren't wrong. Paranorman proved that innovation doesn't have to sacrifice warmth. It bridged the gap between stop-motion's past and future, a perfect mix of craftsmanship and courage. And it cemented Laika's reputation as the studio that keeps the human touch alive in a digital world. Kubo and the Two Strings, 2016. This was the moment Laika reached mythic status. Kubo and the Two Strings wasn't just a movie, it was an epic told one frame at a time. Imagine crafting an adventure as grand as Lord of the Rings, except every wave, every strand of hair, every gust of wind was physically moved by hand. That's what they did here, and the result was nothing short of breathtaking. The story follows Kubo, a young boy who uses music and magic to battle gods and monsters. But what really elevates this film is its scale. Laika's team created the largest stop-motion puppet ever built, an 18-foot skeleton that took months to animate. Every scene feels massive, cinematic, yet intimate, because you can feel the fingerprints of real artists in every detail. Visually, it's a feast, delicate paper waves, glowing lanterns, and silk-textured costumes. The studio fused traditional stop-motion with digital effects so seamlessly that you'd swear it was all real. And emotionally, it hit harder than anyone expected. The themes of memory, loss, and courage gave it a gravity rarely seen in animation of any kind. Kubo and the Two Strings wasn't just a technical marvel, it was storytelling at its purest. It reminded audiences that stop-motion, even in the era of computer perfection, could still move mountains. Or in this case, move hearts. Isle of Dogs, 2018. Leave it to Wes Anderson to turn stop-motion into an art gallery. Isle of Dogs took his signature symmetry and dry humor and applied it to a dystopian tale about loyalty, exile, and friendship, all told through talking dogs and futuristic Japan. It sounds absurd, but in Anderson's hands, it became a masterpiece of controlled chaos. The production was staggering. Over 1,000 puppets, meticulously crafted fur, and miniature cityscapes filled with detail down to the tiniest newspaper headline. The animators used subtle frame jitter and textured lighting to give every scene tactile realism. Even dust motes were animated. The dogs' movements weren't exaggerated like cartoons. They were grounded, natural, even soulful. Anderson's storytelling rhythm, precise, deadpan, yet deeply emotional, found its perfect partner in stop-motion. The film's visual language mixed Japanese aesthetics, silent-era staging, and modern satire. It wasn't just animation, it was sculpture in motion. Behind all the quirk and humor, Isle of Dogs carried weight. It explored compassion, leadership, and the courage to stand by those who have no voice. It proved stop-motion could deliver mature storytelling without losing its handmade charm. And if there was ever a film that made you want to pause every frame just to look, this was it. A movie made with tweezers, patience, and absolute precision, and it shows. The Adventures of Mark Twain, 1985. Let's rewind a bit because before Leica, before digital cameras, one man dared to mold philosophy out of clay. Will Vinton's The Adventures of Mark Twain wasn't a blockbuster, but it's one of the most fascinating and emotionally complex stop-motion films ever created. This wasn't your typical kids' movie. Twain's airship sails through space as he and 3 children explore his stories and ideas from humor and hope to life and loss. Vinton's animation, entirely handmade, was like visual poetry. The clay characters stretch, melt, and reform, embodying emotion itself. The film's surreal tone gave it a haunting beauty. In scenes like The Mysterious Stranger, the faces literally reshape as if the clay itself is thinking. It's mesmerizing and unsettling in the best way. No other film captured imagination in such a raw, fluid form. Vinton, the pioneer of claymation, proved that stop-motion wasn't limited to fantasy or spectacle, it could express the complexity of thought. Every frame felt alive, pulsing with humanity. While overlooked in its time, The Adventures of Mark Twain became a cult treasure among animators, a piece of art that dared to ask big questions in a small, handmade world. Before computers, before 3D printing, this was stop-motion as pure creation, where every ripple of clay came straight from the artist's hand. Fantastic Mr. Fox, 2009. If The Nightmare Before Christmas made stop-motion cool, Fantastic Mr. Fox made it stylish. Wes Anderson's first animated feature was pure kinetic joy, quirky, fast, and full of texture. Based on Roald Dahl's classic tale, it's about a clever fox who can't resist one last big heist against his human neighbors. But what makes this film extraordinary isn't just its story, it's how it looks and moves. Anderson rejected digital smoothness and embraced the flaws. The fur ripples awkwardly when touched. The movements are snappy and imperfect. The lighting changes slightly from shot to shot. And that's the magic. You can see the craftsmanship. The production team built hundreds of detailed sets, from miniature farms to underground burrows. Each prop, down to a single apple seed, was sculpted by hand. The result feels tactile. You can practically smell the dirt, and the toast. The film's color palette, all autumn golds and browns, made every frame look like a moving painting. More than that, Fantastic Mr. Fox revived a lost aesthetic stop-motion that's unapologetically handmade. It gave animators permission to lean into imperfection rather than hide it. Critics called it a masterpiece of miniature rebellion, and they weren't wrong. It's charming, fast, and endlessly rewatchable, a celebration of both chaos and craft. Pinocchio, 2022. Just when the world thought stop-motion couldn't surprise us anymore, Guillermo del Toro arrived to prove otherwise. His version of Pinocchio isn't a retelling, it's a reinvention. Set against the backdrop of war and grief, it transforms a familiar fable into a deeply human meditation on love, obedience, and loss, all through the delicate movement of wooden puppets. Del Toro's vision is breathtaking. Every character is physically built, painted, and lit with devotion. The animators used intricate wire armatures to make Pinocchio's wooden body move like it truly had joints and weight. The textures, cracked paint, worn clothing, dusty light give the film a painterly realism that digital work can't touch. It took nearly 1,000 days of animation to complete, with each second demanding hours of labor. The result feels alive in a way only stop motion can achieve. The film doesn't aim for perfection, it embraces the imperfections of humanity itself. When Pinocchio won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, Del Toro said something unforgettable. Animation is not a genre, it's a form of art. And this film is the ultimate proof. It's a handmade miracle that closes the loop on a century of evolution from Willis O'Brien's clay dinosaurs to the soulful craftsmanship of modern masters. From clay dinosaurs to wooden boys, from skeleton armies to singing pumpkins, stop motion has never been about perfection. It's about persistence, patience, and heart. Every film here is proof that real magic doesn't come from computers, it comes from human hands. Which one of these handmade legends blew your mind the most? Drop it in the comments, hit that like button, and keep celebrating the art that time quite literally moves frame by frame.